Hi, this is Ali Rango. In this tutorial, you will learn how to make wrinkled clothes in Blender 3.4. You will learn how to use mask as well as mask extract to make basic clothes. You will learn how to use remesh on the extracted clothes in a way that produces mesh resolution that is conducive to putting wrinkles in clothes using Blender's built-in cloth tools. This tutorial is taught in a step-by-step fashion where I try to explain not just what I'm doing, but why I'm doing what I'm doing. Thanks for looking at this tutorial, and I hope that you enjoy it. Okay, what you see on the screen is the result of some other tutorials that I did. I'll put links in the description so you can get to those. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is make some pants. I've made clothing tutorials in the past. Clothing has generally been a struggle to me. The new cloth options, like all kinds of cloth options that had come out fairly recently, I had played around with them before. At the time, was not that impressed with them. I was impressed with like what I thought they could be capable of. Let's just go to say now I am extremely impressed with them. And we're going to go through a bunch of these techniques as we go through this tutorial. Okay, where I learned a bunch of the techniques that I'm going to show you is from a YouTube channel called Pixelica CG. I went through a lot of tutorials. There is one tutorial that I found, or I should say one YouTube tutorial maker that I found that taught the cloth tools very well. Showed stuff that I saw nobody else show. His channel is Pixelica CG. Just want to give credit where credit is due. If you have interest in what you're seeing here, I recommend you check out his channel because that's where I learned a lot of the more advanced cloth techniques from. Okay, as we go this, and we're about to get into it. This is my way of doing it. I learned a lot from who I just mentioned. However, this is my particular way of going about things. One of the things I recommend you do when you do tutorials is one of the difficult things is how many different ways there can be to do things. All right, so I tend to do things in ways that I think is going to allow me to do things quicker. It's probably because I'm a generalist. I tend to do a lot of different things. Anyway, what we're going to do, we're going to click on our body, right? We're then going to go to our upper left. We're going to go to sculpt mode. Okay, there's a bunch of different ways of making clothes. We're going to use mask extract a decent amount. What is mask extract? Mask extract is when you draw a mask and then you basically get a shape from that mask. So right here, see this box mask? If I left click, you can see there's lasso mask as well as line mask, right? There is a shortcut which is Control Shift. I recommend you remember that shortcut. Very useful to recommend. And that shortcut, Control Shift, basically gives you this, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold them in the mouse button to actually before that, this arm, I tend to work from this angle here, this right view. This arm is going to get in the way. So what we can do is go to box hide. I'm going to left click and drag a box to hide the arm. And then I'm going to go to object mode. I'll click. Turned off. Yep. Rename this hand. I just double clicked it. Rename that. So I'm gonna. This arrow, by the way, allows you to select things or deselect them. So I'm gonna click that eye to turn that off. Then when I click the body, go back to the upper left, then go back to scope mode. Okay, I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to turn the body to this side. You might as well hide this other arm. That's what we're doing, by the way. We're hiding. Somebody's new to Blender and they're like, he's getting rid of them. I'm hiding it. All right, so the reason why I turn this way is we want to put a mask to basically give pants. If I go to the front and I draw the mask here, because of the bend in her back, the mask, the pants weren't. It's kind of hard to select the mask. By turning this to the side, you can see more of how you want to select the legs. Sounds like a small thing, but it actually can be pretty frustrating. So that's why I'm trying to let you know, so you don't have to go through that frustration. I'm going to hold Control, hold Shift, and then I'm going to draw a mask. And we're drawing this mask to basically cover the legs, except for the bottom part, right? So now you can see there's the mask right there. Just held the middle mouse button, rotate. Okay, so mask extract is a nice way to quickly make clothes. Basically, the geometry that's going to come from what we're about to do is not ideal for animation. Basically, what I'm doing, most of what I do for animation. If there's not currently how I work, if there's not a plan to animate, I'm probably not interested in doing it. I'm just telling you this now because a lot of times I'll watch things and there's a different way of doing 3D modeling depending on whether you are planning to animate something or not animate something. So what this mask extractor we're going to use, it won't give you ideal topology for animation. However, the basic plan for me right now is getting the look of the clothes, which will result in topology is not that good for animation, and then the plan is to retopologize it. So long story short, as far as animation, it really shouldn't matter since the plan is to retopologize the clothes as well as the character anyway. So it looks like here we didn't get the bottom. I'm going to go, I want to leave the bottom uncovered. If I want to see just the body, what I can do is go to here. See this view global/local. I'm going to press the N key. That's where that menu is coming from. So if I press the N key, this menu pops out, right? We're also currently on view. You have all these tabs. We're on view. So that's why you can see these options here, right? So if I click view global/local, I can see just the body here, right? So I want to have this not have a mask on it. So what I can do is I can press Control I. And what I did when I pressed Control I is I inverted the mask, right? So now it's kind of sometimes it seems to me kind of like a strange way to think, but now basically what you do with the mask inverted is you put the mask where you don't want it to be. So I press B, select here, right? And then I'm going to hold Control, then press I. And then now you can see I have what I originally wanted. I didn't want this selected, so now I have that. Also, by the way, the reason why when I selected on this side and this went on the other side as well is because when you look to this upper left, see this X is selected? This X basically makes what I do on the one side mirror to the other side. Okay, so with this select, I'm going to go to view global/local just because I prefer to see the character with the head on it. So with this selected, and when I say this, I'm talking about this mask, and this is what you're looking at. This is a mask, right? So I go up to the top towards the left little mask, and then what you want to do is come down to mask extract. When you click mask extract, you'll see these options pop up. For what we're doing here, see this extract as solid? You do not want to do this extract as solid, so you're going to take that check mark away, then select OK. What Blender did was Blender just made the mask its own object. Okay, not only did Blender make the mask its own object, Blender also brought us back into object mode. However, it has this object selected, right? So with it selected, if it wasn't, we could select it again. What you want to do is go back to scope mode, right? To be able to work on what we're doing, you're going to go to the right, looks like a square, click here. You're going to go down to Viewport Display. All right, so you're going to see visibility and then Viewport Display. Sometimes I use Blender a lot. However, it sounds funny, but the visibility and Viewport Display, if I'm not doing this for a while, sometimes I will confuse them. So I'm taking this extra time to tell you here's visibility. It's not that, it's Viewport Display. Anyway, you want to click in front. What this in front does is it makes this geometry show in front of everything, right? Pretty much all the time. That's why you can kind of see, like, we can see like to the back of the pants here. Now we're going to click wireframe. The reason why we did that is we want to be able to see the geometry. So you can see this is a massive amount of geometry that's made. And what we're about to do now is deal with that. Okay, the way we're going to deal with this geometry is we're going to go to the green, looks like a triangle with 3 circles on it. We're going to click there. See this remesh? I'll click it so you can see it. It'll probably come in like this. You see all these options. There's a remesh, right? You click the arrow. There's voxel remesh as well as quad remesh. Voxel remesh makes retopology. It's useful for different things, but it doesn't tend to give you the cleanest topology, right? We're going to use quad because quad does a much better job. Okay, so when you click quad, you won't see the settings that we need until you click quadraflow remesh. So when I click this, we're not going to activate remesh. We're going to see the options. So I click this. Here's the options, right? This is important what I'm about to tell you. I want to click 500 here, though I'm not going to do that because if I click 500 here, which is what I actually want for this, the shape of the shape of this geometry will change. All right. So the order is important. So I'm going to do this 4,000. And then by doing that, I'll keep the general shape. And then after doing that, I'll lower this down to 500. And what this number basically does is Blender tries to aim for this number for remeshing, which is basically like auto retopology. Typically use retopology to lower polygon count down to make things better for animation. Sometimes other reasons as well. So anyway, we're going to click OK. You can see a meter at the bottom. And there we go. So now we have this new topology. You can see it looks much better. Okay, while this looks much better for what we're doing for our cloth, I need this to be lower. As far as retopology for animation, this isn't too bad. The loops and things won't be correct, but this is, pretty decent to work with. Anyway, with the quad selected, we'll go back to quadraflow remesh. We click here and we'll change this to 500, and then we'll click OK. So now this is lowered drastically down, and this is a good amount for what we're going to do as far as the working with our actual cloth. Okay, this window here, kind of use this. I'm holding the middle mouse button, rotate. Kind of can use this to help see what's going on here. I'm going to go to the upper left object mode. I'm going to right click, select shade smooth. This is the polygon count that I want. I'm going to go back to scope mode. Don't need to see the faces anymore, so I'll go back to what looks like a square. I'll go back to, remember, there's visibility. We don't want that for what we're doing here. We want viewport display. We'll unclick wireframe. Okay, so the reason why we got the geometry lowered down fairly amount is what we're going to do is put a multi-resolution modifier on here to get the geometry up. In a sense, the clothing tools in Blender I think are phenomenal now. I think they're phenomenal. However, they can be finicky in at least as far as my current learning how things work, right? So anyway, with our pants here, what we want to do is we're going to go to, looks like a wrench, right? We can add our modifiers. We're going to left click. We're going to add a multi-resolution modifier. Multi-resolution modifier basically makes your geometry go up a lot. However, you can go back and forth between lower and higher geometry, right? There's another modifier called subdivision surface. You tend to use that a lot when you're modeling. Multi-resolution modifier tends to be, you tend to use subdivision surface when you're box modeling. You can use it. I've used it a lot with sculpting as well. However, recently, multi-resolution modifier tends to work very good when you're sculpting. It's what we need for right here. If you look up here, these are statistics, right? To have Blender show your statistics, you click, you can see this right here, and there's statistics. I put this check mark here. That's important for when you're sculpting. I'm not going to get into that right now. However, you can see like the amount of geometry we're working with right now. For the multi-res, to increase the geometry, we're probably going to use the level of 2. You're going to click subdivide once, right? This number just did a massive jump. Then I'm going to click subdivide again. Did even a bigger jump. I'm probably going to be speaking fairly quickly. There's a lot to go through with these different tools. I'll try to tell you the basic tools that you use. Okay, so one of the basic tools that you use, which this like shocked me, is the pose brush. As far as at least as far as I think making your clothes work well. When I say making the clothes look well, generally what I'm talking about is not textures. I'm talking about that's a later thing. I'm talking about the general look of topology without textures. So generally wrinkles. One of the things that's very good about these tools I'm about to show you is they will give you simulated wrinkles fairly quickly, and it can be a little finicky, but they look, I think, good. So anyway, pose brush is a major thing that you're going to use. Another thing, or that we're going to use, another thing is the cloth filter brush. Another thing is the actual cloth brush itself, right? Along with that, we'll use mask. We'll always also use face sets. Masks are basically what you saw, where you draw over your character, or your geometry, and that basically protects things. That's a lot of controlling things. Face sets are kind of like mask. They're like in a more advanced form of mask. Instead of just having like one color, you have multiple colors. You can do things with those different colors. Okay, the main reason why you're working with these different things, at least as far as what I'm trying to show you, is for wrinkles. Getting decent wrinkles, getting the cloth to not be just how it is now, right? And having Blender basically simulate that. So it saves you a lot of time, a lot of work. It because things are being simulated, the folds, quote unquote, they are generally correct. Anyway, things to take note of is these strokes that you use are important. All right, what am I talking about when I say stroke? Okay, so if I go up to the draw brush, right, and I look over to the right, see this stroke right here? See where it says, with stroke settings, I should say. See where we see this says space? If I click here, you see all of these different strokes. These matter depending on what you're doing as far as you're working with your clothes, right? You can press the E key, and you'll have this, you'll have these settings to change for stroke. I recommend you remember E, put that in your memory. It's useful to know. So yeah, that matters. Also the resolution of your clothing matters. All right, you have to have kind of all of these things together. That's what I'm trying to show you here. If you have them right and do things right and understand what's going on, it's pretty easy to work with cloth, right? Like I had said, the guy Pixelica CG, I had not seen anybody show. I saw people showing pretty much the same things, which not everybody, but generally things that I did not think were particularly useful, at least if you're interested in working with characters. Anyway, with all of that being said, this is a major one, the pose brush. So we click the pose brush, right? The pose brush is normal thing is like, if I wanted to take an arm and like bend it, but without rigging it, right? I would use the pose brush. That's it. I'm guessing its main intended purpose. At least it was maybe before the cloth things got added. So when we have the cloth brush selected and we look over to this menu here. All right, so this menu here, this is the end menu, right? I'm going to go up to Tool here, right? When I go to by the way, these settings here are because this is how Blender is normally by default. I click here and I pull this out just because it makes it easier for me to get to these tools. I leave this N key here, this N key, as well as second. Okay, yeah, here we go. So this N key as well as here, this is kind of like a duplicate. This is basically the same. To see what you see here, see all of these tabs here, I am clicked on the Tool tab. That's why you see this here, right? And then for here, over here, like if you wanted to take this out away, if you have limited screen space, if I press N to take this away, this is the button I'm clicked on for here. So you can take that away. I tend to keep them both up. It's useful to know that you know, that you can use this or this. I think it's useful. Okay, back to the pose brush. Okay, so the pose brush, I'll pull this out. See, this says deformation right here. By default, this is geometry, right? However, if you click the arrow here, you can see cloth simulation. So here is cloth simulation. This is very important, all right? We are clicked on the cloth brush. I mean, yes, we clicked on the pose brush. The pose brush. It is very important because if you do not catch what I'm getting here, right? I understand people do different things. You're watching a tutorial. I changed deformation from geometry to cloth simulation. That is extremely important. Okay, so moving on from there, we have deformation. This is extremely important. So by default, the pose brush is set for rotate and twist. Generally, as far as my current understanding of working with cloth simulated clothes, you generally don't use this too much. You're going to click here, and you have these different options, right? Scale and translate works very well. Squash and stretch also works very well. We'll try squash and stretch for now. Okay, yeah, I know it's a lot of stuff. It is important, and I think it's worth it knowing this stuff from what you're about to see what you can do with the cloth brush. Anyway, the different cloth tools. When you see this advanced, right? So in here, these are advanced options, right? This is important. The face sets are important. The mesh boundary is important, right? I'm going to click on face sets, and what this generally does is when we draw face sets, this lets the tool work over the face set, right? This mesh boundary is when this is turned on. So when you have like off the boundary here, when this is off, Blender will allow you to just move this whole piece up, which is what we want to do. If you turn this on, if I try to push up, Blender will keep this place. I'm trying to show you like the end of the pants right there. All right, that's important to know. As far as drawing face sets, we have the draw face sets brush. We also have the box face set, and then the lasso face set. Okay, what we want to do is go to the draw face set. We have this X on, so what we do on one side, what happens to the other side. I'm going to press F. You can increase and decrease, change the size of your brush. So what I'm going to do is left click once, nothing then happens. So I'll left click again. And then when I drag this down, we have that face set, right? One thing that's important with face sets is where your brush is at as far as drawing and working with face sets, like when you first start drawing. Okay, so we just put a face set on the legs, right? The face set allows us to control how things work, right? Suppose I want to decrease this face set. See how I'm hovering over what doesn't have a face set on? If I hold control, right? I'm holding control. This is important. I'm holding down the left mouse. And now when I drag, do you see how when I drag down, the face set starts to go away? I'm letting go of the left mouse button. I'm letting go of control, right? So now when I'm over here, right? And by the way, if I say some things, and I'm saying this just because before the comment when I explain things, I'm excited to show this to you. This like I think is spectacular. Uh, uh, the way I'm talking, every once in a while, somebody's like, "You're talking to people like I'm talking to people like I would talk to myself." All right, for them saying this. Anyway, I'm going to emphasize certain things so that you can, so I can hopefully make sure you realize how important they are. Like here. All right. Anyway, with that being said, I'm going to hold, whoops, I'm going to go over here first, right? Not left clicking the left mouse button or holding control. I'm now holding control. I'm now left clicking on the mouse. I did this over the current phrase set. So now while holding control, which I'm doing, and holding the left mouse button down, I move up. And do you see that? The face mask is moving up. I'm letting go of the left mouse button. I'm now letting go of control. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to go towards the back. You can see we did that just towards the front. So now see the dot in my where my cursor's at? I'm holding down control. I'm holding down the left mouse button. And now I'm dragging up to get that back piece. All right, I let go of everything. That should be, we'll go here, hold control, hold the left mouse button, move this up. I'll move here, hold control, hold the left mouse button, move that up. There we go. Okay, so this lets you control what's going on. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to push up from here, right? We're trying to get basically what I'm going for is eventually the plan is to make boots, right? The boots are going to come up here to about here. I want the pants to look like they're bunching around, like around the knee, to where the boot like stops, right? Or I should say calf area, like not the knee, around here. So I want the pants to look like they're bunching up around there. That's the current plan. So by having this face set here, when we push up, it kind of, and having this, we have to make sure with this advanced settings, we have face sets turned on here. I'm trying to remember if I explained this right. Okay, so the face sets here allows these brushes to work with the face sets we just drew. The mesh boundary, when this is turned on, so here's the pants here. So this would be the boundary right here. If this is turned on, then Blender will keep these pants from moving up, which sometimes you want. We don't want that now, but this is important to know about. Another thing that's important to know about while we're on it is I'm going to go to the pose brush. See this rotation origins? So we're set for topology. I find that this works best. However, you should know you can also set this to face sets so that the brush tries to work with just the face sets. Okay, with all that set up and all that stuff, what we're going to do, the brush size is important as well. A lot of stuff. So I'm going to press F, make the brush bigger. So what we do is see that line. So basically that line that's coming out from my cursor, right, the line that's pointing up, is basically dependent, because of this topology, on the size of the brush, right? So I'm going to left click to drag up. See how the wrinkles are there? And actually looks pretty good for so far, at least from what I think. I find that you tend to have to go back and forth. I'm going to click so we can see our multi-resolution settings we have now, right? So yeah, the size of the brush is important. See how this is like, actually it doesn't look bad. I'm going to go back. I'm going to hold control, press Z. A lot of times what you'll find you're doing is going back and forth, right? I'm going to press up. All right, so what I found is like you don't want the wrinkles to be too small nor too big. So I'm aiming for, I want the wrinkles to be bunched up here, but mainly bunched up here. So I'm going to left click and drag up. Yeah. For the most part, I like that. You can keep going over this to try to get different results. By the way, one of the things that happened to me, and this might happen to you, is when I often whatever with the current version of Blender, I believe it's 3.4. When I go to move the cloth brush, my pants would totally disappear, right? The simple solution was, or nothing would happen, right? But often they would disappear. So what you do is, if that happens, go to multi-res, delete it, and just put multi-resolution on again, subdivide up to 2 again, and then things should work as you want them to work. Okay, you can work with this to get the wrinkles how you want them to be. One of the things you want to know is when you made the pants how we made them, it's how to move the material. So I recommend you go to grab. I'm going to press the F key to shrink my brush. Basically, what you want, I would recommend you move small increments to move this into place. If you tried to use shrink wrap here, you would find that all your wrinkles would go away. That's why you want to use something like the grab and not just use, not use shrink wrap. Shrink wrap won't work for you. Surprisingly, the pose brush works pretty good as far as moving the whole material forward or back or in a position. That worked very good there. As far as this right here, like this material right here, you could get rid of this. You could cut it. You could do all kinds of different things to it. You have to decide what you're going to do based on the fact that, like I said, the plan here is to cover this up to boots. The boots will come up to about here. If you wanted to flatten this out, probably the best way to go would be to use the line project tool. When you select the line project tool, you basically drag a line out, and whatever is beneath the line, where there would be like a shaded aiming part, whatever's beneath the line is basically flattened out. I'm not sure. I'm imagining we probably want this to come to about here as far as like the boot coming up, which is the current plan. However, I do think this should be left until we work on that boot, so we'll leave that. So I'm going to go to the upper left of the screen, go to object mode, click on actual body, go back into scope mode. Okay, here we're going to hold Alt, press H to bring back the arms. I want to see just the body. I don't want to see the legs. So what I'm going to do is go to View Global/Local. We're currently in Global, like your default view in Blender is Global. We want to go to Local, so I'll click this. And this is the mask that we previously had. So I'm going to hold Alt, press M. That's how you get rid of mask. I'm going to hold Control, hold Shift to draw a new mask. I'm going to go right to the waist. I'm going to come up pretty high on the neck, but then I want there to be a split here. That's good. Taking a look here. I'll hold Control Shift. Bring this down some like that. I'll press Control I. I'm doing this to get rid of some of the mask here. That looks better to me. And basically what I'm doing here is because we have an inverse, wherever I don't want the mask to be, I draw the mask. Now I press, let me hold them in the mouse button to rotate. I'm going to hold Control, press I. So now we have the mask going where we want it to go. And the reason why we have this is, or we made this is so we can make basically like this hoodie type piece of clothing. So very similar to like we've done before. What we're going to do is go to mask. We'll go to sharpen mask. It kind of like makes this not jagged here on these edges. We'll then go to mask. We'll go to mask extract. We'll turn off this extract the solid. We'll select OK. Now we have this mask as its own separate piece of geometry that we can use for clothing. Okay, now that we have this as a separate object, we'll go to scope mode. Here in scope mode, we'll go to, looks like a green triangle. We'll go down to remesh. We'll select quad. We'll go to quad flow remesh. Remember, we keep this the default setting so that we don't lose the general shape. So we'll select OK. We'll take a look by going to, looks like a square. We'll go down to not visibility, but viewport display. We'll select show wireframe, right? So now we can see the wireframe. I'll go to this hand to pan. We'll go back to the green triangle. We'll go to quad remesh. Let's take this to 1000. Click OK. We'll go to the square. We'll make this be in front. We'll go back to the triangle. I'm gonna try 500. Let's see what happens. 500 looks much better as far as trying to use this for clothing and wrinkles to me. If you're like, why were you trying to go for 500 when you went for 500 on the pants? Why would you change that? I was like looking at the pants, like there's two main limbs. I thought kind of like there might be more, I don't know, surface area. So that's why I thought. But 500 works well here. We've got this split here. So we're in scope mode, sorry. Let's go to edit mode. We've got this symmetry turned on, so what we do to the one side happens to the other side. I'll zoom in. I'm going to select here, hold shift, press X to delete those faces there. Happens on the other side as well, which is good. Starting at the beginning of this tutorial, a lot of times in Blender, it's not necessarily what you can do. It's like what strategy you have to you're going to use to make things go, depending on how you want. For me, it's generally speed. So I think anyway. Anyway, I'm going to turn off the X. I pressed L to try to grab one side. The reason why I wanted to grab one side is I want to delete one side. So I'm on face select. I press C for paint select. I'm going to be speaking pretty fast here, so prepare yourself. I'm deleting this side here. That's the plan. Before I delete it, I'm selecting it. The reason why I'm selecting, I got this. I'll press C, hold the middle mouse button. You press C, press the middle mouse button, that lets you deselect when you drag. I'm selecting this because I want to delete this. The reason why I want to delete this is because this isn't connected in the center, and the fastest way I can think of having those center pieces connected is with a mirror modifier. So with this selected, I'll press the X key, press the faces to delete. Okay, with that side deleted, we'll go to, looks like a wrench, go to add modifier, we'll add a mirror modifier on, we'll turn on clipping, right? I'll go to edge select near the top center, I'll hold Alt, push this towards itself. I don't want this to be pushed towards itself too much. I'll press C, deselect by holding in the middle mouse button on my mouse. That allows me to work with these pieces here. I do want this connected, so I'll select here, push that towards itself. See how the mirror fairly nicely what's going on here? For the most part, I'm going to vertex select. For the most part, mirror modifier does a pretty decent job. I'll select here this weird. Can I? Oh yeah, look at that. Okay. All right. here, push that. So these are kind of bunched up. That's why I'm grabbing these and pushing those there like that. Okay, so with that done, we're going to go to object mode. We're going to apply this mirror modifier. We'll right click, select shade smooth. We'll go back to scope mode. We're going to make this basically be a shirt instead of like a hoodie, is what I've decided on now. Okay, so we're going to go to, looks like the square. We'll take off wireframe. Go to the wrench, we'll add a multi-resolution modifier. We'll subdivide this twice. We'll go to our pose tool. We'll go to lasso face select. If you don't see that, you might see box face select. If you hold this down, this will bring you to lasso face select. We'll draw a lasso around this whole part right here. Do Control Z because I forgot to turn this on. So you want to make sure this X is on to have both sides be like that. You'll now go back to your pose brush. You're going to press F to make sure your brush size is about as big as that. We'll go back to tools so we can see what's going on here. So we have this for squash and squish topology, right? We'll press F to make this bigger. See how I made this bigger, this being the circle that's representing the size of my pose brush, because I wanted that line to almost be coming up to the edge of the face set. So now I'm going to left click and drag like that. You can play and work with the wrinkles to get different results than that. I'm going to select the hand, move this to the side, roll back. I'll hold the middle mouse button to rotate. Okay, what we're going to do here is we're going to go to edit mode. We're going to go to edge select, and what we want to do is make this wider and longer. So I'm going to hold Alt, hold Shift, select here. I'll let go of Shift. I'm holding Shift as well as Alt again to select that whole loop there. What I'm going to do is push down here like that. Then press S like this. Push this back, and I'm trying to get this to clear the body. I could see this going through there. So, okay, so we'll go back to scope mode. Okay, what we're going to do is go to this lasso face select. This was the box face select. If you left click, you can see that extra options. Select that. We want to put a face select, face set like right over here. Like that. We also want to put one basically like that. Didn't want that. When I say that, I didn't want this here. So I'm going to go shrink my face set. There we go. Okay, so there's a tool where we can push this up to put like wrinkles here, right? So that would be the boundary tool that's here. So we'll click there. When we click there, the settings, the advanced settings and things change. So we want to select here for face sets. The deformation is set to geometry. The reason why this happened is because this is a its own settings for itself. So we need to change this to cloth symmetry. Cloth simulation. For this, then we'll change this to grab. And then the boundary brush, basically, you see how it's like basically grabbing the boundary there. So what we can do is left click and drag up. There we go. And what I'm going to do is go to the cloth simulation brush. Drag up some there. And this is pretty neat as far as like, see how this is sitting out here, right? Like not sitting on the body there. Okay, one of the ways we can deal with that is we can go to object mode. We'll select the body. So this looks like a circle. That's our physics tab. We go up to the left column, right? Collision is what you're selecting. Collision. While selected on the body, you'll select back on your cloth. You'll go back to sculpt mode. And then what you're going to do is go to cloth filter. Here on cloth filter, you're going to look to make sure you have the tool tab selected, right? So you have all these buttons. You want to make sure tool is selected. Then you want to turn on use collisions as well as use cloth sets. When you look to the left for this cloth filter brush, you'll see this is set for gravity. That's what you want. And then when you hover over this face set and then drag to the right, gravity will be enacted on this. The collision that we put on here should cause this cloth with the face set on it to go over the body. So we'll left click and drag. And when you left click and drag and let go, you'll see that the gravity stops. Going very slow. If I click here and shake this down to 1, slightly better. That's pretty well. You can control gravity right on that specific face set. So now I'll shake this back up to 2. Take a look. Okay, what we're going to do now is go back to our pose brush. We're going to use this to kind of pull these edges in. Press F. We'll go to our grab brush. You want to do like, see how like here you can see this is going in. If you go to the snake hook brush, you'll see you can very easily manipulate big pieces of geometry like that. I recommend you do things in steps, basically. Let's back up to. Okay, let's deal with this not having wrinkles. So to do that, we're going to go to cloth brush. When we went to here, nothing is turned on here. This is currently set for drag. This is cloth itself, the brush, so it doesn't need cloth simulation turned on. With all of the default settings, what we're going to do is leave this face set not to be on so we can put wrinkles here and kind of affect everything slightly. So what we'll do is click here and drag. I'll shrink the brush down some. You can see wrinkles forming. Okay. Okay, what we're going to do here is go to object mode. I'm going to press N key, go to view, select view global / local. We'll select here, take this viewport up to 2, render up to 2. We'll select the pants, take this up to 2 as well. Okay, what the plan is going to be, I mentioned we're going to do armor in this tutorial. I'm probably going to do that in another tutorial. We'll do the boots in another tutorial, and we'll go ahead and finish this up. As far as the clothes, like I was saying about the clothes, the more time you put in, the better results you'll get. So we have most of the wrinkles that I wanted to get right here. Right here, this is pretty smooth, however, towards the back. Okay, we're gonna select here, turn this render up to 2. We'll go back to sculpting mode. We currently have our cloth brush selected. So what we're gonna do is hover over this face set right here. Actually, it doesn't matter because we don't have face sets turned on. I'll go to tool. Yeah, so we're affecting everything. So we'll drag down here. And I like that. Holding the middle mouse button, rotate. Okay, what we're going to do here is we'll go to the snake hook brush. We'll turn off face sets. Now we're on snake hook brush. And I'm trying to get the clothes to fit so you don't see the other cloth coming through. Hold the middle mouse button to rotate. Okay, this is pretty shrunken down. So what we're going to do is go to object mode. With this selected, we're going to go to edit mode. We're going to go to edge select. We're on. We're going to hold Alt. Select this loop, so we have that whole loop selected. We're going to hold Control E. This brings up our edges menu. We're going to select Mark Seam. Now normally you would use this to mark UVs, to set up UVs. However, this is useful for things like this. I did this because I want to select all of these faces here. This seam kind of acts like as a block for the selection, so I got a face select right. Hover over here, then press L, and then all of this is selected right up to that scene. Okay, in Blender, there's two types of scales. There's scale, which kind of scales everything, and then there's I call it scaling to make fatter, for lack of a better term. And then instead of pressing S for the regular scale, that's how you would do regular scale, you press Alt S. So what we're going to do is hold Alt, press S. We activated that. Now we're going to press 0.4 and then Enter to lock that in. I'll left click to deselect, and now I'll go back to object mode. You can see we got a decent amount of scale and pretty quickly, pretty easily, where we made this basically fatter in a sense. Okay, so we'll go back to sculpt mode. Take a look at this. We'll go back to the snake hook brush. Press F to make this bigger. here. A lot of times it helps to move things in increments. I'm trying to push the clothing out. Okay, let's go to object mode. We'll come to our clothes. We'll go to, looks like a square. We'll go down to Viewport Display, turn off in front. We'll select the pants, turn off in front. We'll go click back on the upper part of the clothes. Okay, we're going to go back to scope mode. I'm going to go to the blob brush, make this pretty big. There's multiple ways you could do this. I thought that a blob brush would probably be the quickest without really interacting too much with our wrinkles. Of course, you can go back and adjust this. Okay, we're going to go to scope mode or object mode. Make sure you have the pants selected, not the actual legs. Then we'll go to scope mode. Okay, as far as for the upper part of the pants, the blob brush should be fine. However, when you start to get near the leg wrinkles, we'll switch to another brush. So let's go to the grab brush. And I find that things work better with the grab brush with small movements. So I click, move very slightly, let go, click again, purposely trying to make smooth, purposely trying to make very short grabs, movements. Definitely want to be careful, probably want to shrink your brush. Recommend you aim in a direction whatever is closest to achieving a goal of covering up the legs on the other side coming through. Okay, I'm going to hold them in the mouse button. One thing you can do to help yourself, like if you have an area like this, you can hold Control, hold Shift, draw a lasso, select. Right, so you mask that, hold Control, press I to invert the mask. Then you can go to something like you can try going to something like the snake hook brush, increasing your size. I'll still say small increments, but this will, depending on how much time you have, speed things up. Actually, the bigger size is not good. On the middle mouse button, trying to grab from different angles. Go to the hand, left click, that's panning, so that's my brain, I can't think of Shift Control on the middle mouse button, yeah. Roll the mouse wheel back. Alt M. Let's see the front here. Let's see. Go back to the grab. I'm rotating, trying to get decent angles so I can kind of like see what I'm doing. I say see what I'm doing, I mean like understand as I'm grabbing, if that makes sense. As I'm grabbing, I'll go to the pan. I'm going to go back to object mode, select here, back to sculpt mode, grab here, hold the mouse to pan. I'm going to go back to my cloth brush. Okay, actually this neck area here, if we go to the boundary brush, we can set this up. Grab, basically pull this down to the side like that. Okay, we'll go back to the cloth brush, turn up the strength, maybe like 8, around 8. Grab and pull down some. I'll go to the blob brush. Okay, I'm going to hold them in the mouse button to take a look. I'm going to turn off the x-axis. We'll go to the grab brush. Move things around purposely, making them somewhat off-center. Like not so everything is so symmetrical. Okay, what we're going to do is go back to object mode. I'm going to unhide our hands, which still need work themselves. I'll left click on nothingness to deselect. Okay, the plan is in future tutorials, most likely the next one will make boots. After that, we'll probably make some type of hard material or armor, something to go here. Hopefully from this tutorial you learned enough to see that you can make wrinkles in clothes fairly easily with things like this. Like there's a lot of wrinkles here. You can come in, get the wrinkles you want. You can also smooth out areas so that you don't have as many wrinkles. Yeah, I hope you learned how to use wrinkles or make wrinkles in cloth in ways that will help you out in the future. Okay guys, that's it for the tutorial. For all of those of you out there that like the videos on this channel and reshare them, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And for those of you who are new to this channel, if you like the videos on this channel, you would like to see more, please subscribe and thank you for viewing.